20 bowls. That's, as a head coach, that's quite a run.
I appreciate that, Gary, and thank you. Obviously, we're just really happy and excited to get the news. It was great to learn from Steve Ramsey that we're going to have an opportunity to play in the TransPerfect Music City Bowl in Nashville. And as Gary mentioned, we thought we had that opportunity coming a couple of years ago. It didn't materialize. So this is really special. Also, has been mentioned, it is our 20th bowl now since 2001. And I think, each one of them represent, I think, a significant accomplishment. And then the other part about it, each one, are really something that's appreciated by everybody in our team, our program. They are special opportunities for our team, most importantly our players, and just to have this happen is really a good thing. In general terms, the way I've always looked at it, it's one more chance for our entire football team to compete together and work together for another couple of weeks, which is great. For the seniors, it's exactly that, because this will be the last time they get a chance to compete with the Tiger Hawk on their helmet. And I can tell you it's really special before they go off to their adult lives or whatever chapter is next for them. And then, for the younger guys, it's significant from that standpoint, as well as just it's an opportunity to continue to develop. And these are really, important opportunities for all the players that haven't played a lot, or even guys that have played that are younger, to continue to move forward as players. And really the way you learn how to play football, and a lot of different things that go into it, but the most important part, you have to go out and do it and practice it. And we only have limited opportunities to pick up this month is really beneficial for everybody. And if you want to have a highly competitive program, it's just a really important opportunity. So again, just appreciative on a lot of levels. And you look across the line now, it's always good to know where you're playing and then who you're playing. Certainly there's some familiarity with the Kentucky program. Coach Stoops being a graduate of this program and playing when I was an assistant. But more importantly, just what he's done as a head coach in the program they've built at Kentucky. And we got exposure to that firsthand last year at this time. Nothing but great respect for them. I'm not overly knowledgeable about this year's team, but I know what their program stands for, how it's built. And we know we're going to be in a very competitive situation again, a big challenge for us. So that's exciting as well. And then it is kind of an interesting sidebar. My nephew actually brought it up that we kicked off the year, the calendar year 2022, playing Kentucky, and now ironically we're going to finish it on the 31st, with the same opponent. So that's a little bit of an interesting sidebar. And as Gary mentioned, we thought we were going to Nashville a couple years back, and now we get to actually do it. So anyway, it's just really good to know who we're playing. We can now start thinking a little bit about our preparation and doing some game plan, as well as the other things that we are doing. Just shift gears for 1 second. Our roster is in a process of shifting, probably like every college football program in America right now. These are uncharted times, certainly, with some of the new things that are going on in college football. And we're really no different. So, we got a few things that are going on there. And then on a notable front, unfortunately, Spencer Petras will not be able to play in the game. The injury he had in the Nebraska ball game was significant enough to require surgery. So he's not going to be able to compete. Nobody's more disappointed than him, obviously. Like any player that has a injury that requires surgery, just takes him out of competition. And it's going to be good that he'll be with us, but all of us wish he wasn't on the sideline supporting the team. But that is the one thing I have to report right now. Otherwise, I'm not really aware of anything new injury-wise since last week, and hopefully it stays that way. So we'll go from there on that front. As I mentioned too, that the rosters are shifting right now. So like everybody else, we do have some movement, and it could go really up until any point. Like years in the past, you've got guys making decisions about NFL status, decisions about playing in bowl games, just a sign of the times, like the portal. So, we'll keep you abreast of that as we learn more. A couple guys have made up their minds. A couple guys are trying to figure out what they want to do, and just encourage our players to give a good thought. And the biggest thing is once we start our preparation in earnest, we want to make sure everybody's ready to roll and they're totally on board. So the other part, just playing at the end of the month gives, I think, us ample time for our guys to do a good job finishing up the last week of classes this week, going through finals, and then giving us a chance to have good preparation block before we head down to Tennessee. So all that, kind of, I think, pulls together pretty well. And then, again, just as we move forward, as we get more information about logistics, travel, all those types of things, we'll be sharing them as we go. I just want to say again, in review, just really excited to be invited to the TransPerfect Music City Bowl. Excited about the opportunity and really excited for our team to have the full bowl experience. And I know our players that are on the team that were on the team in 2020 were excited about it. As Gary alluded to, I think they're more excited now. So we're looking forward to that. And with that, I'll throw it out to questions.
All right, Coach, first question will be from Tom Kakert.
Hey, Kirk, want to know, will Joe Lavis be your starter in the bowl game then?
Well, it'll be him or Carson May, one of the two. We'll let those guys work the next 4 weeks and, see how they do. We were on the field yesterday, and both of them did some good things, but obviously we got some work to do with both guys. The good news is we have 4 weeks to get that done.
Coach, next question is from John Steppe.
Along those lines, what have been your impressions from Joe and from Carson throughout the season on scout team?
Good, and you hope all the guys are good. The one guy, as soon as you mentioned that, I'm thinking about T.J. Hawkinson, who was a redshirt freshman, tortured our defense and, really did a good job. So, it was no big surprise that he ended up developing into a really good football player and then only was with us for 2 more years and ends up being the 8th or 9th player drafted. So, you just never know what the path's going to be, but both those guys have done a good job. They're good young guys, and obviously they're lacking experience right now, and that's our job to move them forward.
Coach, next question is from Kennington Smith.
Afternoon, Coach. Appreciate you taking the time speaking with us. Wanted to get an update on Cooper DeJean and Sam Laporta.
Yeah, they would not have played if we played yesterday or this weekend. But I'd expect Cooper for sure to return here at the end of the week, and I think Sam's very close. He's out on the field and moving around pretty good, but he would not have been game ready this weekend, nor would have Cooper. But expect them both to be fully ready to go in the bowl game. And I know they're excited. I don't want to speak for guys on our team, but I can tell just by the way they're acting, they're excited to play another game.
The next question is from Scott Docterman.
Yeah, good afternoon, Kirk. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the transfer portal. You've had some significant departures, I guess, or at least they've announced it. Even though tomorrow is the first day that non-graduate transfers can officially enter it, do you expect everybody who announced to actually go to the portal, or is there some maybe some swaying back the other way towards staying for one or two of them?
Yeah, it's a great question, Scott, on a couple levels, and we're all learning. One thing I learned is, I'm trying to sort all this stuff out. Who can we talk to? Who can't we talk to? One thing I also learned is, players that played on staffs where the coaching staff was fired, they're treated like graduate transfers. So you can have, a conversation with those folks. But to answer your question, and I didn't cover this in my comments, glad you asked, not everybody's 100%. And that was kind of my encouragement when I talked to the team yesterday. Was just, take some time here, deliberately take some time over the next few days and make sure, if you want to be here, you're here and your feet are here and full-fledged and part of the team because, and we've dealt with this in the past, and I imagine most colleges have, where a guy's trying to make a decision, do I go to the NFL, don't go to the NFL? And it's not good for anybody. When you get in that situation, I would venture it's going to be the same way at the portal. Do I leave? Do I stay? And, it's just a different time in sports right now. So my encouragement to our guys is, if you're serious about playing in this game, then let's go. And if you're not, then wait back. And then we'll handle each situation individually in terms of the players. But I would say the majority of the guys that, have announced that they have thoughts probably won't be back with us. And, with that, maybe that creates opportunity. Maybe there are other players out there like Zach Van Valkenburg, Jack Heflin, and Mekhi Sargent, going back chronologically. They ended up coming here from other places and did a great job and really added to our program, and they're all still active participants in the NFL. They're really good players, but more importantly, they're really great guys that really added to our team. So, it's just you have to change your framework, your perspective, and every guy we recruit, our goal is to have them graduate from Iowa and finish their careers at Iowa. But if that's not possible, then, we'll look for guys that maybe are interested in doing that.
Coach, next question is from Chad Leistikow.
It's Leistikow.
Hi,
Leistikow,
Alex.
Alan. Come on, Alan. On Joe Labus and Carson May, Kirk. How much less has May done, I guess, than Labus? When we've seen Joe out there in the spring game on Kids Day, whatnot. Like how far behind would he be? I guess from Joe at this point.
Yeah, typically in any year, most of the reps go to your 1 and 2 guys when you're practicing. And, one thing when we changed our whole schedule back in 2015, went to a morning schedule, it made it a little tougher, more challenging to do some work that we call developmental work with guys that aren't necessarily in the 2 deep. So it's probably the only negative I think all of us feel came out of that assessment. And so we try to create those things we did during bye week. And, we try to steal, maybe 8 plays, 10 plays here for the younger guys. But all that being said, it's not the same as working with the 1s or 2s. It never has been, never will be. So we'll do our best to take advantage of this time. And that's one good thing about the month of December. You have time available. So we'll try to find out what they can do and do successfully. And, part of the challenges to the rest of the team, it's like when any good player gets injured, everybody else has to step it up and do a little bit more. That'll be our approach. And we'll, our intention is to win this game. That's our goal and intention. And we'll try to figure out a plan that's going to give us an opportunity to do that.
Next question is from John Steppe.
Historically, you've been one of the more conservative programs in the transfer portal. How does the kind of slew of transfer portal entries that you've already seen change that? And what's specifically going to be your approach at wide receiver in the portal?
Yeah, I think it's way too early to say because, you don't know how our numbers compare to other numbers. And, quite frankly, I don't think our numbers are a lot different right now than they were for the entire year last year. Not dramatically different. But the difference is that they all kind of are centralized now in a time period. Whereas, you might have a guy here or a guy 4 weeks later, 5 weeks later in years past. But, the portal's opened this up. It's just, it's a whole new time in college football. Factor NIL, couple that with the portal. Just sort of like, guys, I remember when it was really unusual for a guy not to play in a bowl game. I'll date myself, and I can't remember who the player was. A pretty prominent player that didn't play in the Orange Bowl. And I was naive enough to think, coaching in the Orange Bowl is a pretty big deal for me. And I would think playing in the Orange Bowl would be a big deal for a player. But again, it's kind of a sign that we're moving into different times. So you just have to accept it, I think, and you deal with it. And, you always hate to lose any player from the program. I said that earlier, and I do mean that sincerely. But, Mike Tomlin, I think, was quoted saying, you don't want a hostage in the building either. So if a guy's not really, really interested, and those are his words, not mine, but if a guy's not 100% on board, it's probably best for everybody just to go separate ways. And then our task is to look at the portal and look at the transfer market and try to learn about them just like we would any recruit that we're looking at coming out of high school and try to bolster the roster. Now, all that being said, it's going to affect the month of December for, I think, probably most programs. I'll just go on a limb and say that. You guys know the numbers better than I do. So, to try to quantify it right now and compare it to other years, I don't think that's reasonable just because this year is so different than any year we've been in.
Next question is from Mike Kloss.
Kirk, forgive me for not knowing this, but are you allowed to talk about Cade McNamara?
Can't talk about any prospects, so I can talk about the guys on our team right now.
Okay.
I checked on not that specific name, but I checked on that detail today just to make sure I didn't step in one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that said, what did you think about Cade McNamara and the way he played against you and in general last year?
Yeah, he impressed the hell out of me. Their whole team did. And, he was a leader of that team, a captain on that team. Very, very impressive. And the guy that played last night was very impressive, too. So, big surprise. Michigan's got some good players, and, it's probably a long tradition there.
Next question is from Corey Breda.
Thanks, Coach. Just piggybacking off a question earlier, I just wanted to clarify on the portal. If a player enters their name tomorrow or whenever, does that sell them on leaving? Are you open to accepting a player back? I mean, I think back to Davion Nixon and his situation. Has your stance on that changed? And then kind of a second part to that, is there ever a scenario in which you could see a player who's in the portal being a part of bowl prep and actually potentially play on December 31st?
Yeah, it's possible. I don't think, there will be a high number of those, at least in our program, but that's what I was referencing a little bit earlier, trying to articulate. I think our approach will be, we'll look at each and every individual case, and I can share this with you that a couple of the players, they're very firm in their thinking, and amazingly, a couple of them already had, I think, a destination, in mind and probably, worked out. So, and that's good. It's good they have a home. The bigger issue in this whole thing is, a couple months from now, how many guys are going to be homeless in terms of, leaving a scholarship situation and ending up without one. But, that's a different discussion. So, yeah, we'll handle each and every case, case by case, depending on the individual, and try to use judgment that really is in the player's best interest and ours as well.
Coach, next question is from Scott Docterman.
Yeah, Kirk, I know you've only had, 9 days or thereabouts to kind of assess the season, but do you anticipate your staff being intact in February, or do you think that there might be some departures? Do you have any kind of an update to share in that area?
Yeah, I mean, departures on our staff are sort of like the portal in your team. I mean, I think it happened there. A couple thoughts on that, just, again, simplification. But I look at our season, and I'm an optimist, as you guys probably know. We lost 2 games by 3 points. We lost 2 teams that are in the college football playoffs, which I think is historic from our conference. Both in the same season we played those 2 teams. And as I said back when we played them, I thought they were pretty strong. I think it's been verified on the field and by the selection committee today. And then we lost a game last week where we had 2 key players injured. We turned it over and gave up a big play, the things that had really helped us win the 4 previous games. So, every season's a new season. Every season's a different season. Every season has its own story. But, yeah, it is what it is. And I told the team yesterday, I'm really proud of them, and it's been enjoyable to work with them, and I'm looking forward to working with them. I think our whole staff is this coming month. And then, like every year, we'll do a comprehensive study on everything we're doing. And I really kind of foresee this year being similar to what we did, and I had this thought weeks ago, what we did in 14. 14, that's when we went to the morning schedule, et cetera. But we do a study each and every year, but I think this one will probably be a little bit more thorough and a little bit more detailed.
On a side note to that, and I apologize for jumping in, I believe it was that year, and a couple other times you've done that, where I think 07 going into 08, you kind of doubled down more on being more Iowa-like and probably be more insular. Do you anticipate that, or is it just going to be a little bit, just the total evaluation will take you into the direction of where you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a multitude of things we'll cover, and I don't think anything's really broken right now, but I think there's probably things that we can do better, like every year. But, it's a wide range of things, whether it's our players, our coaching staff, our approach, each phase of the year from a football standpoint, the recruiting, all these things. And now you got a new topic with transfer portal, and, we're all kind of winging it right now in that regard and learning as we go. It's kind of been interesting, quite frankly, but in some ways it's kind of exhilarating, because there is opportunity there, I think, if you're careful about how you do it. But yeah, all that being said, yeah, we're going to go through everything and just see what we come up with. But as I just ran through our season, I don't think anything's broken here right now. And if you look around college football in the landscape, not every season turns out the way you want. It'd be great if it did. But I'm sitting here right now. We've, over 5 years, I think we're third in the Big Ten for victories. As disappointing as it was to lose a couple tough games this year. And I'm proud of our program, proud of the people involved. And our focus will be, like it always is looking, how can we improve? How can we get better?
Next question is from Chad Leistico.
A couple quarterback questions, shocker. But do you expect, I guess I feel for Spencer, obviously. Do you expect how long will he be out? And do you expect to have a conversation about him returning? And then secondly, can you think of a situation like this in your coaching career where you've had, you go into a game with 2 guys that have never played a game?
Yeah, if you hang around long enough, you never know what's going to happen. And this is an instance or, example of that. So yeah, I mean it's not ideal, but I think about 2010 when a guy named Coker jumped in there and ran for 225, I think it was, down against Missouri. So it's just your approach we got to try to figure out. We as coaches have to figure out what we can do to give our team the best chance to win, knowing the players involved, and we'll know a lot more about that after a couple of weeks here. So it is a really highly interesting situation, but. We got a lot of strengths on our team too, so we'll try to play to those. And I'm sure Kentucky's going to do the same thing with their team, and it'll be hopefully a great game for both teams. Going back to Spencer, unfortunately, it required surgery. We were hoping that wasn't the case. Of course, it couldn't have just been a bruise or a sprain, so it required surgery. And I think it's probably unrealistic to think that he'll be able to throw a ball for several months now, including spring. So I think first things first, let's get him healthy, and then. I think he would have had a chance to be maybe a pro guy, a pro free agent. I don't know how this is going to affect it. We'll know a lot more, in the new calendar year on that one.
All right, Coach, last question will be from John Steppe.
You were mentioning the nothing really being broken. A lot of the offensive stats have you in the last 10. What are the metrics that you're going to be using to evaluate the offense and the offensive coordinator in particular?
Well, it'll be a lot more extensive once we get to the out of season. But as I've kind of been relaying to you all along, you go back and one of the guys that played last night played very well in the game. That was a big loss to us in the out of season, talking about the portal. And they gave the story about why he left. It wasn't discontent here, I don't think. But, he played with a high school quarterback, or at least a childhood friend. So it is what it is, but that was a loss. Injuries, keeping players off the field, good players off the field. If you go back and look at who was on the field for a couple of the games early in the season, I think that was reasonable, affected us. Things I know about some of the development of our younger guys and things like that, where there was some things that impeded their development. We thought they'd be further along. Thinking about the guys up front, and from my vantage point, that's what I said about both quarterbacks, Spencer and Alex. Tough to get a fair assessment just because of the way we were operating. And, challenges, can we fix that? Are we doing things well enough? Is the system geared towards, having success offensively? We've had success too with, the system and the coaches here. So, we'll take all that into measurement, and, that'll go in earnest in January, start in earnest in January. Right now our focus will be on, getting ready for this game and trying to put a good football team out there on the field.
All right. Thank you for your time, Coach.
Okay. Thanks, guys.